Okay, so what we're going to do is a mock lesson on pressure. So we're going to start with some observations. What I want you to do is just look to see what I'm doing and what do you observe happening. So I'm going to put the paper to my chin. So talk it over with your neighbors, and I want you to tell me what you observe. So a lot of answers you're going to get are, I noticed that you made a sound as you were blowing. Or the paper went up. Or if you get it really good, it starts to flutter a little bit at the end. Other observations are that you can hear the blowing and the paper went up, but also the paper went towards where I was blowing. All right. So we're going to do a second observation. Now in this observation, again, just tell me what you see happening. I'm going to take two pieces of paper and I'm going to put them together and I'm going to blow in the middle. So what do you observe happening here? Now keep in mind I'm not doing anything with my hands, but talk it over with your neighbor. What do you observe happening? So a lot of you students are going to observe that again, you're going to hear me blowing, you're going to see the papers move together. So those are my observations. What I want to do next is we want to develop a model as to describe what it is that we're seeing. So this is where we get into a description or an explanation of the two observations we just had. Now in both cases, the students will say they observe the paper moving, or they might be moving towards where I'm blowing. And so this is where as a teacher we're going to lead into like, okay, so when the air is blowing, or moving air, creates a situation that causes the paper to move towards it. So we let them develop that idea. And so from that, moving air, that means the air is moving fast. So we have a relationship. When the air is moving fast, it does what's called, it lowers the pressure. And that's what causes the paper to move together. There's a lower pressure in between the papers, which means higher pressure outside the papers. High pushes to low, pushes them in together. Same thing with the papers under here. As I'm blowing across the top, low pressure on top, high pressure on the bottom. The high pressure pushes the paper up. So now what we're going to do is we have an idea that if air is moving fast, it creates a low pressure system. We're going to test that. We're going to test that with the following. I have a ping pong ball and I have a bendable straw. Now you can use straight straws, but I do prefer using the bendable straws. So this is going to be a testing experiment. We're going to test the model that we just developed, that if air is moving fast, that'll create a low pressure system. So what should happen if I'm blowing through the straw and I'm having air coming out this way and I put a ping pong ball in the stream of the air? What should happen? So talk it over with your neighbors. Try to develop the result if our model is correct, because what we're trying to do is we're seeing what should happen based upon the model. So what a lot of students will say is like, well, they might say the air is pushing it up. And when we relate it back to our model, that if the air is moving around, it creates a low pressure system, which means further away is a high pressure. So there's going to be a force pushing on the ping pong ball if our model is correct. And when the earth is a force pulling down and that high pressure system going up, I should really be able to find kind of a sweet spot so that the tennis ball or the ping pong ball is just going to sit there. So we're going to watch this. We're going to zoom in. So I'll do it one more time. I'm not going to do it 4 more times because I'm already getting lightheaded. So you can see the ping pong ball kind of moving up and down, where the forces are finding where, how are things balancing, how is it moving, but the ping pong ball is staying in the air. In fact, what you can also do is the pressure system doesn't have to be directly above it. It can go from a side. So watch the following. The greater the angle, the more I have to blow through through the straw to get that to there. So that's an example of how I can use this in a teaching lesson as a testing experiment based upon the model that we just developed. I look forward to seeing you next week in some of our new models.